I started kindergarten at the end of August in 2001. I was 5 years old, my favorite color was red, and my homeroom teacher was Mrs. Dutter. So aside from the really unfortunate haircut, I think you can say I was a pretty normal little kid. But on September 11th, 2001, 2 planes were hijacked and crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. Today we all know this event as 9/11, but for me, it was a frightening and early disillusionment. Watching the towers fall was terrifying to a 5-year-old, even though I didn't fully understand what it meant or what the implications would be for my country. As I grew up, I was never taught what the US could possibly have done to make people so angry they'd be willing to die in order to exact revenge. Questioning the motives of the attackers was seen as lending legitimacy to their actions. And like so many in my age group, I came to believe that 9/11 was carried out by bad guys whose religion and culture were just inherently evil. And this viewpoint shaped my outlook on the world until almost 10 years later. We know that fear is a very strong motivator for human beings. And young children's early experiences often have a great effect on their viewpoints as adults, even if they're not consciously aware of it. These 2 factors come together to form a dangerous combination when we talk about tragic events like this. Fear can create prejudices and misunderstandings, and since they're acquired so young, it's hard to change them or even become consciously aware that they exist. They seem intuitive. But these prejudices are incredibly harmful. Lack of understanding of 9/11, for example, has led to widespread fear of Islam in the US. This is partially due to the fact that those who couldn't understand the attacks when they happened, like kids, emerged with a garbled view since it hadn't been properly explained to them. These kids are now 17, 18, 19-year-olds, and their attitudes may not seem globally significant. But kids grow up. I'm going to grow up. And eventually will take over important positions in society and government. So it doesn't seem important when college kids have misunderstandings and prejudices. But what about when senators do? And if we only realize it then, will it be too late to change? So these responses to tragedy need to start immediately. Kids need to know what has happened and why, even if it's disillusioning. Otherwise, they may fall prey to fear-mongering in the media and political world. Unlike most adults, kids don't have the filters to understand why these attitudes are biased. And attitudes like this have been on full display in the media in almost every recent tragedy, including the Boston Marathon bombing just this April. Several news media outlets reported at first that a Saudi national had been detained and was being questioned. This was never true. But what kind of message does that send to someone who doesn't understand sensationalism in the media, like a young child? It tells them that anyone who looks different or is from a different country is immediately a suspect, and this is just wrong. But unfortunately, in the US today, many have fallen prey to these prejudices. Islamophobia has sparked dozens of attacks on Muslims and others from the Middle East in the last 12 years. Vandalization of mosques and the bullying of Muslim children has become almost commonplace. The normalization of this kind of harassment is one of the most shocking results of fear. But we would be foolish to think that prejudices only harm those that they're directed towards. Every day, we hurt the potential of kids and young adults when we don't arm them with the information that they need to make decisions free from prejudice. We fail them when they have misunderstandings about other cultures because they weren't educated about them. Because every kid and young adult has the potential to be brilliant and to change the world. But we have to examine the way we look at the world, because that affects how we'll change it. If our viewpoints are prejudiced or harmful to others, we need to question them and adjust them in order to truly unleash our brilliance. On May 1st, 2011, my sister burst into my room at about 11 p.m., looked straight at me, and simply said, "They got him." Hearing about the Osama bin Laden raid brought back memories that I hadn't thought about for years. I remembered what I had felt and how I'd thought about the attacks. Recalling these memories made me reconsider why I'd thought the things that I did. And once I realized that my viewpoint was based more off of fear than facts, I felt compelled to educate myself and change my perspective on 9/11 and then on the world. But this shouldn't have taken me 10 years. There are a lot of things that I wish I would have known better when I was 5. So if I could send back 2 pieces of advice to little 5-year-old me in September 2001, the first would be this. You should really grow out your hair. Because the short hair, it just doesn't work. But the second, and far less trivial piece of advice would be this. Look for reasons, not just reactions, behind conflicts. Because you'll always come back with a more complete picture than if you just take things at face value. You'll be able to form conclusions that more accurately reflect reality and take actions according to those conclusions. If kids can internalize this, and if all of us can internalize this, we'll be able to weather any tragedy without forgetting the equal value of all human life, regardless of religion, race, or culture. And hopefully, or as my inner idealistic 5-year-old would like to think, this kind of respect for one another will lead to a world where we don't have to talk about how to help kids deal with tragedies of this scale.